Hello and welcome to More Than a Game. My name is Tommie C. This week on the show, Rodgers Revenge, Liverpool made to pay at the King Power Stadium, UFC 258 kicks off early at Parramatta, FIFA Club World Cup goes largely unnoticed except in South America, and of course Optus, the A-League and Williams Saliba get a little bit carried away with Valentine's Day. I'm joined by Jesse. Welcome aboard, mate. Good to see you kitted up in your Wellington gear ahead of the match this morning, or this afternoon, I should say.
That's right. Big game today. Desperate need for a result, which we'll obviously talk about soon. But just pumped to watch some football because, as you know, yesterday's games were all postponed.
I know, mate. I think everyone, whether they were in Australia or otherwise, like me at the moment, we're keen to sit down and just watch a whole bunch of football on Saturday. But it was kind of cut short a little bit.
Big time.
All right, mate. Let's get into it then. What caught your eye this week? What did you like?
My moment of the week was the Mexican contingent turning up for the Davila performance. I thought that was absolutely fantastic. It's a while ago now because obviously a bit of football's been played, but I thought that was pretty cool. I think particularly considering the global situation and people not being able to get to the games, especially people from his homeland, I thought that was pretty cool. And it was pretty special as well. Even though it was a consolation goal, it was pretty cool. They got to see him score at the end there.
Yeah, mate. I think a lot of people this sort of warmed the heart for them. And I had this as a question for later on in the pod, but look, I'll throw it out now since it's out there. We don't see much of this kind of thing in the A-League where one of the foreigners, like they'll have like a big sort of contingent that'll get behind them, whether or not they're actually from their homeland or not. But can you think of any other foreigners maybe who might who you would like to see have a sort of a bit of a travelling contingent following them around?
Well, I think we can't speak for any of the English guys in the league. Otherwise, we'll just get the Barmy Army turning up and getting pissed at every game, and then we won't be able to have any fans present at all.
So you have negative fans.
Aside from the British culture in inverted commas, I don't know. Like I'd love that for any culture in the league. If we have a great Japanese start, I'd love to see the Japanese fans get along. Chilean.
Yeah.
I don't care. Just the fact that there was a pocket of supporters who, to be honest, 12 to 15, 30 people can make a lot of noise if they want to. So it was pretty cool to see.
Yeah, mate. Actually, that is a very good point you raise about the Japanese fans, and Honda did have a bit of a sort of a little fan zone, especially for him amongst all the Japanese expats that live here, and there's plenty of students here as well, obviously too. So you're right. There has actually been some foreigners who have had big foreign fan contingents getting behind them too. So. Cool, mate. Nice one. I enjoyed that too. For me, it was the Club World Cup. Not necessarily specifically the Club World Cup, but specifically Palmeiras losing. Palmeiras are a bit of a running joke when it comes to this tournament or its predecessor, the Intercontinental Cup or the Toyota Cup, whatever you want to call it. In the fact that they've never won it before. And even though they've won the Copa Libertadores, the South America's version of the Champions League a couple of times already, they've never managed to do any good in this tournament, which is kind of strange. To the point where I think this was their third crack at it, and they've never won it. So in South America, pretty much everyone gives them shit saying they've never won a Club World Cup. They're not their Mundial. Everyone says, and it pretty much blew up as they lost to, I think it was the African side in the semi-finals. Not only did they then lose the against the African side, they didn't score a goal, and then in the third place playoff, they didn't score a goal again either, which means that incredibly they've now got a run of games in the Club World Cup or Toyota Cup where they've had three cracks and they've never scored a goal, let alone won one. So you love to see it.
It's absolutely brutal, and of course in Brazil the Club World Cup's a big deal, isn't it?
It is, and I guess it's only becoming a bigger deal as well as sort of Europe. Like all of the money and best players are getting concentrated there, and that's not a recent thing. That's happened a lot in the last, I guess 20, 30 years. But yeah, it's something that it means a lot to Brazilians specifically. It probably means more than winning the Libertadores, which is kind of strange, but
it's huge.
It's just the way it is. Mate, what didn't you like this week, though?
Going back a little bit, I guess, because I wasn't on last week, and this sort of goes across a couple of game weeks. I suppose it's a lot of the abuse on social media, and this goes across a few different groups. We saw Mike Dean absolutely cop it after his, and we can all agree it was a horrendous decision, and he's got a reputation for this sort of stuff. So I get it. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, two decisions actually. But at the end of the day, these people are human beings, and people are sending death threats and stuff to him, and he ends up having to bow out for a game week, and at least that's just for now. He may not come back for a few more. Look, I am completely in agreement that he had a mare and had a shocker, but he's kind of one of many people that have really copped it recently. It was young, I think it's Tuanzebe for Man United when he gave away a free kick into the game. The resulting free kick for Everton when Calvert-Lewin kicks it in, De Gea has a mare. No one's talking about that. They're talking about Tuanzebe giving away a free kick way up the field in the dying moments of the game. He's getting abused on social media. Alisson absolutely copped it after his howlers last week, and I get it. Like, people are fucking up, and I know that people are all locked in their houses at the moment, and this all means a lot more than maybe it usually does. But it's just like, these are human beings. Like, it's just why do people turn on people so fast on social media? I still don't understand it. And a lot of people say stuff that they'll never say to somebody in the street. So a lot of keyboard warriors going on, and I just think it's bullshit, to be honest.
Mate, I totally agree with everything you just said. I mean, I think there's a lot of people that and like it's very easy to do on social media. You feel as though like there's a I guess a little bit of distance between you and maybe the subject, and you probably say things like you say that you wouldn't normally say to someone face to face. I agree. When it comes to Mike Dean, he there was lots of angry fans this week after he pretty much made two howler decisions against West Ham. I think Southampton was the other one, and it was bizarre, I guess, because it went from being they were two terrible decisions, and then just completely sort of escalated into death threats and stuff. And I believe he ended up saying, "Yeah, guys, I'm out this weekend." And I think some fans might have been happy with that, but probably not in the way that it panned out. He wasn't standing down because he said, "Yeah, you're right, my performance wasn't good enough." He stood down because he doesn't want to be a part of sort of that thing and wanted to let things sort of die down a little bit, which it's not right.
Yeah, agreed.
Alrighty, mate. For me, I mentioned it in the top a little bit about Valentine's Day, and I think everyone just got a little bit carried away with Valentine's Day this year. Obviously, Melbourne being in lockdown, there weren't too many Valentine's Day dates going on. But Optus, Sydney FC, Neymar, William Saliba, all kind of got a little bit carried away with it. So I'll rattle through some of the things that have been going on. I guess, obviously, anyone with an Optus sports subscription would have noticed the Valentine's Day theme that they rolled out this week, which was just weird and cringy and naff, and I hated it. They also doubled down on it on their pre-Premier League coverage last night with I saw Scott McDonald dressed up as like a snooker player or a blackjack dealer. I'm not sure what he was going for, but sort of all of the above.
He went all in. He went all in, that's for sure.
I think he pocketed the black early, which I'm no snooker expert, but I'm pretty sure you're not meant to do that.
Bloody hell.
Then Sydney FC, they rolled out some cringy video about fans falling in love with the team, a little bit weird. And then obviously this week you had William Saliba getting a little bit too excited, a little bit too aroused in the changing rooms as well. Just maybe doing a little bit of Valentine's Day preparation or foreplay, if you will.
That was the classic not safe for work link, eh? Like, it's getting fired around the group chats, and you're like, can you just give me a heads up, please? Don't need that in the middle of a video conference.
No, indeed. And finally, I guess the last bit they'll touch upon for Valentine's Day was, look, it's that time of year once again. It's February, it's Carnival, it's Neymar Sis's birthday. So guess which of our favourite Brazilian superstars is injured?
Oh, tell me he's done his ankle or something, and he needs to go see a Brazilian specialist.
You got it, mate. He's out for 4 weeks. Just shock horror, absolute shock horror.
It's probably written into his contract that he could take an injury.
They should just do that. They should just do that because, like, he's not kidding anyone anymore. Like this is not legit anymore. Come on, guys.
Neymar keeps a really, really close track of all his sick leave, and as long as he's got enough sick leave, he always uses it at Carnival.
Exactly right. Anything else, mate?
No, that was the main stuff, really, to be honest. As I said before, I just think that the attacks on people in social media, like, people just need to be a bit easier on each other at the moment. And that includes sportsmen who obviously are also going through what we're going through, but having to go to work in front of all of us all the time. So that was just my 10 cents on that subject.
Indeed, mate. All right, let's get into some A-League, though. First up, Sydney hosted Jesse's team, Wellington Phoenix, or the Wollongong Fire Chickens at Cogra, midweek. Kiwi and former Wellington Phoenix, Costas Barbarouses helped himself to a brace, while Ulysses Davila gave the Phoenix a late consolation goal. Jesse, it's been almost a calendar year since Barbarouses scored from open play. I read that and I couldn't believe that. I was like, what the fuck? But apparently that's true. And look, do you think Barbarouses, he can take on, I guess, a bit more of a leading goal scoring role for Sydney in Adam Lafondra's departure?
Well, it's the million-dollar question, because it's been, at the start of the season, at least, it didn't seem like that was going to happen. It seemed like, if anything, we were all expecting Bahagia to take that role, and maybe Barbarouses just to sort of be a link player. But he finally banged a couple of goals in, and this is why they call him the Kiwi Kun Aguero. Especially that second finish was just Aguero-esque. Absolutely buried it. But yeah, like he looked, it was the first time in a long time where he looked like he had that hunger to get to the ball first. And again, that's his strength. Like, sometimes he gets played in positions which is not really his strength. He can hold the ball up and that sort of thing, but he's not a tall guy. You don't want to be fizzing crosses into him all day. You just want him to be one-on-one and give him a little bit of space and see if he can, doggedly fight his way to score a goal. And when he hits them, they tend to stay hit.
Yeah, it's just, I guess, a shame that he hasn't hit one for it to stay hit for a while.
When he doesn't hit them, they also stay unhit for several months.
Well, it takes him a while to find the ball again, normally.
That's right.
Mate, the result left Wellington in second last place, though, after having only beaten Central Coast. They have lost twice to Sydney. Obviously, that's a little bit of an anomaly with the fixturing at the moment. They've lost to Newcastle, and they've also drawn with Macarthur. What are your thoughts, I guess, on the homeless Phoenix, I guess, at the moment?
Oh, just a lot of the problems. Yeah, I am concerned because a lot of the problems that or the doubts that I had in them last season was always that they could do a lot of cute stuff going up to the final third, but the actual finishing, like a lot of this echoes when I support Liverpool. I mean, it's the same problem. We can't score in the final third, and I feel the same when I watch the Phoenix. I feel that we're doing everything right, we get in the right areas, but I just don't feel like sometimes we have that cutting edge. And I was hoping we'd get that from a couple of the new signings. And it remains to be seen. They may kick on in the second half of the season, but we just have not got out of the blocks. I like the ice chickens. Cool, Sal. That's good.
Too soon?
Yeah, the Wollongong Fire Chickens will be fiery again. Don't worry about that. But it's been a very slow start. And I'm watching teams around us who, of course, we didn't really give much of a chance at the start of the season, like the Jets and the Mariners. And they're stringing together results, or even when they're down by a couple of goals, finding a way to win. And the Phoenix are kind of stuck in the same issues that they had near the end of last season. So I am concerned, but I do feel that we're not far away. I've never felt like in any of these games that we're miles away from clicking. It just seems to be that bit of end product that we're missing.
Mate, I did catch the starting lineup for the Wellington game, which kicks off, I think, in about half an hour or so, which Arrowheads, unfortunately, we're not going to be live streaming, no. But I did catch that Rene Piscopo is going to be starting for this one. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think he's had much of a role so far this season, has he?
Sorry, you just broke up there. What was who was the
Rene
player you referring to? Oh, Piscopo, yeah. Yeah, no, he hasn't had much of a look in yet so far. And so last week he almost created an assist at the end of the game in the dying seconds of the game. So hopefully that's an ominous sign that he can come back into form. He's a good player.
Yeah. You're right. And I mean, he was a huge part of Wellington's success last year. He was sort of a bit of a player that came out of nowhere, and well, at least for me. And he really showed, I guess, that he was a quality player in the A-League. And so him back playing, back in form, back to full fitness, I guess, could be a huge big get for Wellington as they hope to jump back up the table. And look, mate, I guess if there's one good thing that goes in Wellington's favour at the moment, it's that even though they haven't had a great run of results so far early on in the A-League season, it only takes sort of 3 or 4 games in the A-League if you get good results and you back up into finals contention. So exactly. Still early days, still very early days for the Phoenix. You got anything else you want to say about this one, mate?
Well, I suppose we should probably give some credit to Sydney. They're digging out results again, and the right people on the team are scoring. So credit. I think they deserve the win. So can't take that away from them. And we did score very late on, so it kind of maybe flattered us a little bit. But Sydney look like they're going to be an ominous beast again this season.
Mate, do you think they're going to be hitting the same heights as they have in previous seasons, though?
I know that they've lost some players, and I know that there's been a little bit of a turnover. But I mean, it's like I said, sort of in the preview to the season, like these young guys that are coming through, like Neuenhoff and stuff, like. You don't even notice that someone's sort of exited when you've got players like that coming through. I mean, the chance that Wood missed in the first half, I think it was, with just a bit of silky footwork, they turned, I think it was De Vere, into just like, he might as well be in a traffic cone. He just like walked right past him, and he should have buried it into the bottom left corner. He pulled the shot, but that's a sort of a little snippet of what they can do when they link in close interplay. They've got really silky skills.
And you're right. I guess that's going to be sort of some of the challenge for Sydney is we know they've got good players and they've got some young players who are coming through and getting more game time this season. But I guess for them hitting the same heights and finding that same consistency that they've had for the last couple of years is going to be really challenging for them, I think. But I guess all the early signs are promising, and I guess they're hitting the right trajectory, I guess. Next up, Brisbane hosted Macarthur, the McBulls, at Redcliffe during the week as well. The so far impressive Brisbane did have a bit of a stumble, though, as the McBulls launched a Trump-style snatch and grab raid. Goals from Matt Derbyshire and my boy, Danny Jonru, gave the McBulls the 3 points. Mate, it's a shame we don't have Damo or Colby on the pod to discuss this, because I think everyone, not just Raw fans, have been very impressed with the Raw so far this season, even to the point where Robbie Fowler's come out of the woodwork again, talking about the Raw.
Yeah, classic Fowler. This was a bit of a shock, actually, which I think, to be honest, the comp, even though the comp's been going sort of away recently where teams that you don't expect to win are winning, this was good. This is healthy for the competition, because the Brisbane were just starting to really string together a lot of very strong results, and
starting to look real ominous.
Yeah, and this is really important. This sort of goes to show that anyone can beat anyone on their day still, and that's what makes the competition so good. Rumor has it that Federici's still finding his way back to the goal now, actually. Still rooted to the halfway line. Pretty funny to see 2 of those sort of goals in the same sort of week. The long distance chip. I mean, we all want to see them, but often they go awry, don't they? So it's good to see a couple of them actually executed. And that was the killer goal. That's what killed the game off for Macarthur. So good on them. They're on fire at the moment, Macarthur.
They are, and look, they're a little bit like Western United last season in that I think even though a lot of people don't like the cowbells, I personally love them. I'm hoping that MacArthur make a go of it this season. Like you want them to be successful this season, if nothing else, other than so that some people get a little bit on board and they see some wins at the home ground, and the fans, they sort of build, like they have some of those positive experiences to do with coming to see their team play, and they're much more likely to come back this season and next season into the future if they do have some of these positive game days. So look, it can only be a good thing for the club, and like the league basically also needs the McBulls to be a success too. So I think it's only goodness that MacArthur ironically did get this win up at Redcliffe.
And they're getting good crowds too, MacArthur. We'll talk about that shortly, I guess. But yeah, they're getting good support.
Here. Mate, just on the top, back to Robbie Fowler, or Robbie Fowl, as Sal's said in the comments. A bit of a visual joke, I guess. Robbie Fowler was he basically came out and claimed some responsibility, or I guess a significant part of responsibility for the Raw's good start to the season. What did you think was worse, though? Robbie Fowler's rant, or Lucy Zelich clamouring to throw credit at John Aloisi?
Oh, it's like you internally cringe, don't you? The Fowler thing is just like, I said it in the group chat, you guys were talking about it, and you were talking about, here he is coming out and obviously trying to claim credit and things like that. And I just said, no Fowler, play on. And that's for me, is the attitude we've all got to have. Don't give him the light of day. Don't entertain what he's got to say. Just let it just sort of just disappear, and he'll become irrelevant. And I think that's the biggest thing that Fowler's worried about, is becoming irrelevant. So just don't even pay any attention to it. I think that what is happening with the Raw at the moment is we're seeing a team start to gel under the current manager, and that's the way it should be perceived. You can't have previous managers claiming what's going on right now.
Yeah, mate. If we just ignore him, he'll go away. And I mean, really, he's India's problem right now. So who cares? UFC 258 at Parramatta this week was a pretty saucy fixture. Western Sydney versus Melbourne Victory. For me, two very similar sets of fans. I'll leave that just dangling out there. But
it's like, where's he going with this?
Mate, I have to say though, this was a strange game, and to be perfectly honest, I don't think anyone will remember anything to do with the result or the performances of either team. This game was all about the two basically Mutai impersonations, one by Rudy Gestead and the other one by Graham Dorrans, on Bernie Abini and Marco Rojas, respectively. These were two. It's unusual to see fouls this bad in the A-League. Obviously, we had your doppelganger, Roy O'Donovan, a couple of years ago in I think it was the grand final, the semi.
That's right.
With that boot to the head, but it's very rare that you see these sorts of fouls. It's unbelievable though that both players managed to stay on the pitch. Though Graham Dorrans did get a yellow card for his, but unbelievably, Rudy Gestead didn't get a yellow or anything for his. Although obviously he did give away a penalty. Pretty bizarre, I guess, match, and both the fouls, I guess, were both pretty bizarre as well. What was your take on this, Jesse?
It's interesting the way that referees interpret it, because the way that because there's been so much scrutiny on slide tackles and see, like, potentially career-ending tackles which can go into the knee or to the leg. There's a lot of focus around the laws about making sure that if you see anything that puts a player in danger, it's a red. But the thing is, we don't seem to apply the same logic to the head, which is quite strange.
Well, especially considering like they've just rolled out like the new concussion substitute rule, and it doesn't, like you say. I agree, mate. It's a good point.
Yeah, I don't really know why. I mean, I personally am always on the sort of side of, I don't want to see a player sent off unless, like, the rule book sort of says that you absolutely have to, because sending off in any sport ruins, like, it does ruin the game, and we don't want to see it unless it really, like, needs to be done. But in that instant, like, he's centimeters away from really doing a lot of damage. It is. I do feel a little bit for him, because we see players do this a lot, like bicycle kicks to clear the ball, because it's that kind of like feeling of like, well, if they don't make full contact, then they're going to get barreled by somebody and get a free kick. So they sort of feel like it's a sort of a win-win situation. But the risk is that you can foul the attacker on the odd occasion and get a penalty awarded against you, and that's what happened in this instance. And so, yeah, unfortunately, it kind of like, while you feel sympathetic towards him, on the other side, you also think, well, you could have done some serious damage. So probably would have been red card worthy as well. So as I said before, I don't like seeing red cards, but it is interesting how we've sort of got double standards between legs and the head.
Yeah, mate. So do you think there should have been at least one red or two reds for these two situations?
I don't know. I'm still sort of like, I think it's, unfortunately, it's one of those situations where it's like, because the consequence didn't happen, we sort of think, what if? So because no one did get serious, because no one got seriously hurt.
But Rojas was seriously hurt, though. Like, he had blood pissing out of his face.
Sorry, I'm thinking more about the
just dead one.
I'm thinking more about that one. But the Rojas one, like, when you actually have the consequence like staring you in the face, then I think that the referee should be turning towards red in that circumstance. I was more focused on the first example.
Yeah, no, fair enough. And look, I guess for me, like at first glance, I thought, because like he does, from memory, Dorrans does, he gets the ball first, and then it's sort of a secondary thing that like his boot does, like the sole of his boot gets Rojas's face. And so it's not a sort of a direct, like he doesn't kick lumps out of his head, basically. So I can kind of understand why that one was a yellow. But I agree that lots of Victory fans were rightly incensed with that tackle, because like it was dangerous, and I guess for a player to leave the pitch, blood pissing out of their face, and they have to go off to hospital, and for it to only be a yellow card, I can understand why a lot of fans would see that and go, that doesn't make any sense. And
isn't that what VAR is there for? Isn't VAR meant to sort that out?
Yeah, mate, it wasn't another good week for VAR. But I guess there's one final point I want to throw out about this, is that when a player is he goes off injured, or she goes off injured as a result of a tackle or an incident like this, and is unable to rejoin because of their injury, I think a lot of fans and a lot of players, and we've sort of felt this before. I remember one tackle with Andy a couple of years ago where he went off and was unable to come back on the pitch, and you sort of want some retribution for that. We're unable as players to give that, but the referee obviously is in a position to be able to hand out red cards so that the offending player is unable to rejoin. So I think it's a little bit unsatisfying, I guess, for everyone, where in this instance Dorrans was able to continue on with the match, yet Rojas wasn't, and then of course it had to be Dorrans that then scored the goal as well. So I guess it was a bit of a, I don't know if it's a double whammy, a triple whammy. I don't know what it was, a whammy, a big whammy.
It's a kick in the balls. Yeah. If you're a Victory fan, for sure. Yeah.
So look, I think in an objective sense, for me, the only mistake was that Jested wasn't given a yellow card. Obviously, that would have meant that he was sent off, though, which just weird bunch of different scenarios that it would have meant that Dorrans would have stayed on the pitch, yet Jested would have been sent off.
Yeah, I see where you're coming from. Yeah,
weird set of scenarios, but. Anyway, that's the way the cookie crumbled. One thing I did want to throw out about this one was False Night on Twitter. He did post John Cleese doing the Ministry of Funny Walks about the game, which, it's not often you get to see Monty Python references mixed in with the A-League these days.
That's
obviously. Bit of a younger demographic, so I did appreciate that. So thanks, False Night, for that. Result does leave the VUC last on the table. I think everyone except for VUC fans are really enjoying that. Look, mate, what date do you have in your calendar for when Kevin Muscat returns back to the VUC?
Well, he must be getting sick of the snow, and it must be getting a bit cold up there. So he's probably due to come back and rejoin at some stage. At the moment we're in lockdown as well, so it won't make any difference, I guess. But
probably can't. He's probably been trying to get back to Australia for months and just can't.
Yeah, it's just those, like Dan Andrews redirecting all the flights into other states. He can't get home. Yeah, at the moment, like it's not very. You wouldn't imagine a coach who's leading the victory to last very long if they're going to stay in 12th place. That seems like a ticking clock, doesn't it?
Indeed, mate. All right, let's move on, though. MacArthur hosted Adelaide in pretty much absolute torrential rain. I remember we played a game a couple of years ago, Jesse, in sort of similar weather conditions. And it was, in fact, I think you and I both played in centre mid that day against Collingwood. And it was a lot of fun for about the first 15 minutes. And then you were like, your boots and pretty much your soul was soaking wet. And it was just like, okay, I'm sick of this now. Can we play somewhere dry?
It was quite windy as well from memory, which you add that into it, and it was a battle. It was a trenches battle.
Indeed, and this was a battle too. Adelaide really struggled to get out of the trenches, and although they were able to block a couple of pretty decent chances in the first half that most people would have thought were going to be a goal, it was MacArthur who really dialed things up in the second half, though. In the 66th minute, Derbyshire was able to break the deadlock, and he ended up helping himself to another further 2, which that along with sorry, I can't remember who got the fourth one, but 4 goals for MacArthur meant that this was ended up being a bit of a trouncing in the end, and Adelaide probably were lucky that they weren't on the end of I guess a bigger score line. Really, they really struggled defensively in this one.
Yeah, what is it with Adelaide away from home? I mean, I guess it's the question everyone's asking. It's like they just seem to be a completely different unit on the road, and that's concerning for them because like the more and more it happens, the more and more it'll get into their heads. What is it with this yellow strip? It seems to be affecting them whenever they put it on. It was Mark Milligan as the goal scorer you were missing there, Tommie.
Of course. That's right. There was a nice little finish, wasn't it?
Absolutely scything through the middle of the defense. Yeah, like a knife through
turning
butter,
back
that
the
one.
clock.
Yeah, no, few agricultural finishes by the Bulls, especially from Derbyshire. There's something
Just
about
calm down a little bit. He was like a bit of a bull in a china shop, wasn't he? Just
that's it.
About.
Just hoofing the ball around. There was one thing about. I think having a name called Derbyshire and playing for MacArthur. There's something just beautiful about that. I always think of the Derby Football Club and the Ram icon, and there's just some sort of crossover there. I can't put my finger on it. Similar colours as well.
Do you reckon he played for Derby, or I know he played for Blackburn? I think
he could have. I don't know if any of the listeners know. I'd love to know, but yeah, I just think it's great.
Played for Nottingham Forest, played for Plymouth Argyle, played for Wrexham, and of course, to continue on with your theme, Jesse, he also played for Olympiacos in Greece as well.
No surprises there.
Jeezy played for some teams. He played for Blackburn Rovers, Plymouth Argyle, Wrexham, Birmingham City, Nottingham Forest, Oldham, Blackpool, and Rotherham. So yeah, man, the dude got around. He's a proper journeyman.
That is some proper curated, exported beef. Yeah, no, MacArthur again just they put them to the sword. Tommie Orr with an absolutely beautiful pass across the goal. That was inch perfect, that one. But yeah, just like a hunger to go forward, even when they were up by a couple of goals, they really wanted to put them to the sword. And in Adelaide, I think this is the key thing about these games is that sometimes teams prematurely try and shut up shop and go, I've got 2 goals, I'm just going to sit on it. And these teams like Adelaide were there for the taking because they obviously have got confidence issues at the moment. And MacArthur really put the foot in the throat, to use another adage. So yeah, it was pretty pretty impressive by them, and yeah, I just wanted to shoehorn that one in.
Yeah, mate. I guess look, if it actually meant that MacArthur shot up to second place. Now they have played the most games in the A-League. They've played 8. Some other teams have only played 5, but obviously a big result for them. And like I was saying, it's great for the league. It's great for that new club if MacArthur are able to be successful this season. They also had they issued out their number 1 ticket holder a jersey this week with New South Wales Premier Gladys Berejiklian. there in the rain with her brolly, being given the brand new Bulls jersey with the number 1 on it. I got to say, I'm a little bit triggered by seeing an outfield jersey with the number 1 on it. That doesn't sit properly with me, but it still would be strange if they gave her a goalkeeper jersey as well. Like,
yeah, that's right. Well, she's kind of goalkeeping the state at the moment, to be honest. Like, keeping COVID out of the net. But I think the thing is with that though is that wasn't she pictured with a Sydney FC photo, a jumper at some stage? I mean, I just want someone to verify whether or not we've got a bandwagon fan here.
I don't remember that, but mate, maybe we'll have to. I consider there's a couple of people in the comments at the moment. Sal and Arrowheads 18. Maybe one of them can set us straight about Gladys Berejiklian being a Sydney FC fan too.
Drama.
Alrighty, mate. Let's keep moving though. A couple of games still left in this round. Your Wellington are hosting Central Coast in Wollongong at Wynn Stadium this afternoon. I think that's probably just about to kick off any moment now, or maybe it already has kicked off. Mate, who's going to win and why in that one?
Well, the problem with the Mariners is that even if the Phoenix go in the lead, you don't feel safe because the Mariners, I think it's the last couple of games at least that they've won when they've been like 1 or 2 goals behind. So it's going to have to be a full performance from the Phoenix, and they're going to have to if they do get in the lead, they're going to have to learn to close it out. But my concern, first and foremost, is just getting in the lead in the first place. We haven't been able to sort of dictate a game to our pace because we're always playing catch up because teams seem to score first. So, yeah, I'd like to see the Phoenix just try and accumulate pressure and make the other team make mistakes, and then pounce on those mistakes, and then go and then just build from there. Because I think that we've got enough quality around the pitch to control a game when we actually take a lead, but it's taking the lead in the first place that's the problem at the moment.
Fair enough, mate. So what's your score prediction?
I think a 2-1 Phoenix.
2-1 Phoenix. All right, mate. The other game is Brisbane hosting Newcastle, which is later this evening too. So in this one, Brisbane obviously, like we said earlier at the top, they've been in good form. Newcastle also been in decent form too. However, Newcastle, they're unbeaten in their last 3, but their fourth match. Four games ago was actually against Brisbane, which they lost. So it's going to be interesting to see how this one plays out. Look, I've got to say I'm putting my money on Brisbane to get up though. I think they're in good form, and I think they'll be pissed that they've let one slip last week against MacArthur at home. So to see if Fortress Redcliffe makes a bit of a return this week.
Just want to reply to Arrowheads in the comments. He said, "Come on, you yellows." Couldn't agree with you more. Go Phoenix. Yeah, no, I think that the Jets are an interesting one because they seem to be a bit of a wild card team. Bit of a wild card team, and they obviously, you don't really know what you're going to get from them. Not usually going to get a lot of goals, but you're going to get a fight. And they could nick a result. As far as the Brisbane's concerned, well, they'll be wanting to bounce back. I mean, they've had such a great start to the season that they don't want to let that momentum all of a sudden come to a halt. So my head says Brisbane will bounce back, but don't disregard Newcastle. They seem to be able to play with the best of them this season, which is a bit of a surprise because I thought they would be almost the wooden spoon team.
I think a lot of people thought that too, mate. So, but yeah, all right. Let's keep moving on. One final thing before we finish up with the A-League. After a few weeks off, we're going to be running another A-League Survivor tipping comp. We'll be posting about that this week on the socials. So keep an eye out for that. This time around, we're also going to be having a prize for the winner. Still yet to decide what the prize is going to be, but there'll be one. The other rule is that you can't pick the same team twice. So last time there was a little bit of controversy about that. I think it was Shabab who picked Melbourne City twice and then ended up making it to the grand final. So we shall see if Shabab can do it again, though, with that rule in place. And obviously, like I said, we'll have a prize this time. So it's not just for good vibes. Moving on, though, onto the Premier League, though. Alrighty, so in terms of Premier League, only the 4 matches that were played overnight. A couple of big ones, though. One big result, or in fact, 2 big results. One probably more expected than the other. We'll start with the probably more expected one, though, which is City hosting Spurs, or what really has turned out to be Pep versus Jose in the last few years. But this one wasn't particularly close, really. Spurs, I guess, are in a bit of a flat spot at the moment. And I think no one was really particularly surprised that Spurs didn't really lay a glove on City. I don't remember. Well, actually, sorry, I take that back. I do remember that Kane did hit the crossbar from a free kick, but apart from that, I mean, yeah, Spurs couldn't really lay a glove on City. I mean, 16 wins in a row.
Would have been a cracker of a free kick, by the way. That was absolutely a screamer.
Look, it was a good free kick, but as my under 18s coach used to say, hitting the crossbar is a failure. So, not good enough from Harry Kane, as he would have said to me. It makes 16 wins in a row for City, 23 unbeaten, 3 goals, 3 points, and Pep knocks off Jose once again. This game did have a couple of interesting moments in it, though. Obviously, there was the penalty, which I got to say on first, second, third, fourth, and fifth view, I went, yep, okay, that's a penalty. Yep, it's unsatisfying, but it's a penalty. But then at the halftime break, Tim Sherwood was dissecting it and picked up something that looked like me and everyone else, and VAR included, had missed, which was Gundogan stepping on Højbjerg. On Højbjerg's leg, basically just prior to Højbjerg fouling Gundogan. Did you catch that one as well?
No, but I didn't think it was a black and white penalty on first and second glance, just because I thought that the contact from Højbjerg had happened kind of like from Gundogan colliding into him. So I don't know if I'd actually seen what you're referring to, but it didn't look like a clear-cut pen to me at first. I was kind of a bit surprised that it was so quickly awarded. I thought they might send him to the monitor.
Yeah, well, so what Sherwood points out is that so just prior to Højbjerg sort of ankle tapping Gundogan, Gundogan properly just treads on the back of Gundogan's on Højbjerg's Achilles, and I think he was probably going to foul him. Højbjerg was probably going to foul Gundogan anyway, but still, it doesn't remove the fact that Gundogan treads on the back of Højbjerg's Achilles, and probably shouldn't have been a penalty. But and that's why VAR's there. But anyway, look, mate. As far as it, like I said, for a lot of people, I guess on first watch, they did think it was a penalty, unsatisfying as it was. City obviously lately have been struggling with penalties, and so Rodri stepped up to take the penalty, but I think everyone in the world wanted Ederson to take it, because apparently he's their best penalty taker in training, which is bizarre considering they are just objectively bad at penalties.
Rodri, who I like to refer to as Big Joao Cancelo, with big white shorts. It absolutely broke my heart when I've got Cancelo in my fantasy team, and from a distance, from the certain zoom, I thought that Rodri was Cancelo. I thought, this is fantastic. Cancelo's on pens. How good's this? And as the camera zoomed in, and I realized that his face was probably twice in diameter, it was actually Rodri, and they were the huge white shorts. And I thought, who the fuck cares if Rodri scores a goal? Unbelievable. But anyway. It wasn't a convincing pen. He got the pen, so I don't know what people were complaining about. But not the most convincing pen. It does still add fuel to the fire that Ederson may step up in future. And to be honest, like you were saying, City struggling for pens, but if anybody's going to win a penalty at the moment, it's City. Like Sterling just runs. Sterling and Foden, for that matter, are just driving into the box at close control, and someone's going to stick a leg out and make a mistake. So this won't be the last pen, obviously, we see in the next few weeks, I imagine.
Yeah, mate. And I think if it had been any other team and it wasn't 0-0 at that stage, I think Ederson probably takes the next one. there were a couple of other goals in this one. Gundogan helped himself to 2 more goals, which is just bizarre because I tell you what, I didn't have Gundogan turning into 2012 Messi on my 2021 bingo card. And I don't know if many other people would have, but seemingly that's the case now. Is Gundogan is very, very good.
He's been given the license to thrill, just bombing forward into the box. Cut my lunch a bit. I had Foden in my fantasy team, and Gundogan just basically decided to say, "I'll have everything, thanks, Foden. You can't have anything." But Gundogan's could be Gundogan for the next game because he went off with a bit of a groin niggle. So that'll be the only concern for City coming out of that game. But just going back to the result, Tottenham didn't look confident with the ball. Whenever they got the ball, they were slowly, like really lethargically, trying to just slowly work their way up the pitch. By the time they got there, they were just hoping that Son or Kane could pull something out of the fire. But really, their opportunities were limited. Lamela was okay at holding the ball up, but even he was lucky that he wasn't yellow carded a couple of times. But on the City side of things, just the quality across the pitch. I mean, they brought on Mahrez in like the 75th or the 80th minute and replaced Jesus, and it's just like, on one side you've got Bernardo Silva, you've got Foden in the form of his life, Gundogan in the form of his life, and this is all just at the top of the pitch. You've got Sterling coming back into form, and the job that everyone else is doing behind those guys might go a little bit unnoticed. But I mean, Dias wasn't even there today, and he's been probably one of their best players. Stones has been a revelation. So you've just got a team which is just stupidly deep with talent, but also just everybody is in form at the same time. And when that happens at City, good luck anyone else competing, to be honest, because they didn't look like, every time Tottenham got the ball last night, it took City approximately like 20 seconds to get the ball back, and then they could just do whatever they wanted. So, and Spurs never looked like they were a better team than City by any means.
In fact, to the point where like Spurs have been like very good this season in some games, been very good at nicking the ball and then countering at extreme pace. And in this game, you saw that almost turned into a weakness because like Spurs on the odd occasion where Spurs did manage to actually win the ball back, they'd get the ball, play maybe 1-2 passes, and then lose it. And by that point, they can completely lost their shape because everyone is just barreling forward, and it meant that they were actually very, very vulnerable in sort of that counter attack. And there are a few times where in that moment where City might have won, Spurs might have won the ball back, and there was a counter attack that was on, and because in that point City were actually very vulnerable because they too were in transition, and there was probably 2 or 3 of these moments where like the game, like the structure of these two really structured teams completely fell to shit. And it was actually really, they were good moments because it was kind of like, oh yeah, cool. All right. Like they were almost a bit like watching, like when Leeds played, City, and the game just felt really unstructured and chaotic. And there were a couple of moments where it threatened to be similar to that.
Yeah, as we're seeing in the comments, the counter attack. Yeah, I know exactly what you're referring to. There was one moment where they started to try and get out Spurs, then the ball switched over to City, and then you had Bernardo Silva in the middle of the pitch, and he just swiveled, and he's the perfect player to have in that situation because he'll find it on left or right foot, and all of a sudden you've got
1 foot, mate.
Yeah, well, okay, he's going to use his left foot in both examples, but he's got such great close control that he can just fizz it either way, and all of a sudden you've got the counter attack.
And I guess that could be the next big tactical masterclass coming out of the Premier League is the counter attack. So we'll see if that comes up in the next few weeks.
Yeah, looking forward to that.
Alrighty, mate. Look, one final thing I want to mention before we move on, though, was we mentioned about Gundogan, how good he was. His second goal, though, Ederson, he may not have got the penalty, but he did get an assist. Everyone loves it when a goalkeeper gets an assist. And, I mean, Ederson, he's got an absolute jackhammer of a left foot. And it does feel a little bit agricultural whenever he just absolutely launches it long, but geez, it's satisfying whenever a goalkeeper gets an assist like that, though.
Yeah, it just goes to show how lethargic Spurs were in that part of the game because, I mean, like Gundogan had absolutely no right to get in behind there. And then secondly, once he did get in behind, I mean, he just puts it onto his left. He's done this a few times recently where he shapes to go one way and just goes the other. And both times He's just left people for dead. So, yeah, I know it's a combination of Gundogan being in the form of his life, but it's also some pretty average and passive defending. And this is the thing that I used to complain about a couple of seasons ago when City were back in this position, just dominating everyone. It just gets in people's heads. Teams just don't believe they can beat City. And if you walk out on the pitch with that attitude, which it just felt like Spurs had that attitude from the start of the game, you just don't expect that team, especially when they're two goals down, to find a way out, because they clearly don't believe that they will find a way out. Spurs look like that.
You see a lot of teams I suspect they go out with the attitude of, well, let's just try and hold on to halftime, and then if we can keep it 0-0 for as long as we can, then who knows how the game could play out. Maybe in the second half, City get frustrated. But so often City score in like the first 5 minutes of a game, and it's just like, oh, well, all bets are off. Might as well switch it over now, because there's only going to be one outcome at the moment while City are so good defensively. All right, mate. Look, you stayed off the hook for long enough now, but unfortunately, mate, it's time. We've got to do it for the pod, but it's time to talk Liverpool. I know you probably don't want to, but
got my flak jacket on, ready for this.
Mate, I got to say, this game, Leicester Liverpool, was pretty shit for the first two-thirds of the game. Took 67 minutes really before the game came alive, and it was Firmino that brought the game to life. Some really deft footwork from him, put it on a plate for Salah. But then Liverpool just utterly collapsed in really a performance or a period that we haven't really seen for Liverpool for maybe a couple of years, dare I say it. But first, we had Thiago giving away a penalty, which VAR corrected to a free kick. Maddison's cross-come shot evaded everyone, including Alisson, which led to Leicester's first goal. Second, Alisson had an absolute brain fade by coming out of his box when he didn't need to, giving Vardy an empty net to put the ball into. And then third, Harvey Barnes was played in after Wilfred Ndidi nicked it from Liverpool to give Leicester the 3-1 victory. Mate, there were a few, I guess, things to pick out from this game, and I think we need to start with Alisson, though. What's going on with Alisson right now? Narissa on Twitter asks, should he be dropped?
He could well be dropped. I didn't think that after last week. I know he had an absolute shocker last week, but I think it's he's always had a really strong mentality. When he first came to Liverpool and he screwed up, which ironically was at Leicester, he was able to recover from that when everybody really laid into him and came out the other side stronger and resilient, and just seemed to find a way to he does play with fire sometimes when he's dribbling the ball, and you do get a bit worried with him. But like it's clearly in his head. And I mean, the only explanation of him taking out Kabak last night was that maybe he thought Kabak was still playing for Schalke, because he came out and absolutely cleaned him out. And I was just like, I've watched this. I mean, this is the thing. These are old scars for Liverpool fans. I mean, this is like, we've had our Kariuses and Mignolet's, and this hurts when you see a goalkeeper make a mistake. And that was just like the same feeling I had. And obviously not the biggest occasion like the Karius one, but I remember having the same feeling when Karius went out and just kicked it into Benzema's leg in the Champions League final. You're sort of sitting there and you're angry and you're frustrated, but you first and foremost, you're just in shock, because you're just like,
disbelief.
It's such a cheap way to give. I mean, this is it is the hardest league in the world. Like, goals are so hard to achieve. We'd fought so much to get that first goal, and it was such a cheap way to give the ball away. And I mean, of course, Vardy could just run it into the net. It was just like, I couldn't actually believe what I was watching. And I'm sure a lot of Liverpool fans and even neutrals probably felt the same. So I don't know why I understand why he sort of came out, because he wanted to cut the ball off, and there's always a risk. But I don't understand why he and Kabak collided into each other, and how he managed to, when he did clear it into the path of Vardy, because all he had to do was clear it with his right foot out the other side, and it was nowhere near a Leicester attacker. So there's a few things there which didn't make sense to me. But he looks like a guy that's trying so hard to overcorrect his mistakes that he's making more mistakes at the moment.
Yeah, mate, I do whilst I'm obviously not a Liverpool fan, I can agree with how you just kind of cringe at moments like that when a goalkeeper makes a mistake like that. I don't think everyone was cheering for, maybe Leicester fans were, but I don't think anyone was cheering when Alisson or any goalkeeper makes a mistake like that. In fact, I think I was just sort of, I cheered, but it was more of a yelp or some sort of noise like that.
Well, it's the circle of football, because we were just talking about Edison and how great Edison is. And no doubt about it, he's fantastic. And obviously there's always been that competition between the two of them for the Brazilian team. Had we had this pod 3 or 4 years ago, Edison, does that really poor clearance in Anfield, and Salah chips it over his head and Liverpool go 4-1 up, and Edison's the villain. And and he's the really, really good goalkeeper who's known kicking with delivering with his feet really well, but then he makes a mistake like that. So here we are, full circle, with Edison excelling and Alisson making the mistakes. So hopefully it's one of those areas in his career which he bounces back from. But at the moment, it's not. It's just one more problem on top of a lot of problems that we have at the moment that we could really do without.
Yeah, mate. One thing before we move on, did you catch Vardy's celebration, or were you crying into your hands at that point?
No, I mean, I was still so disgusted at the goal that Vardy could have done what he wanted. He could have run out of the stadium. I wouldn't really have cared. But
well, he tried, and look, I think Brendan Rodgers will be very happy because he's been getting a good tune out of Vardy this season. And look, Vardy replicated that. He picked up the corner post, played it like a guitar. So look, just great to see Vardy getting a tune out of the corner post.
Well, it would be peak shithousery if he was doing that to have a go at Klopp for heavy metal football. If that's what
that would make a lot of sense.
If that's what he was going for, then that's I have to take my hat off to him. That's peak shithousery. But just with the game, I mean, like, not escaping it. Liverpool really low in confidence. Big issues at the moment. My biggest concerns right now is not so much like obviously the title being long gone. Obviously the fight is on for the top 4, and at the moment we're not looking good for that either. My concern is that at the end of the season, like, all of the mental, the strengths from last year and the year before of just being able to find a way to win, fight back, never say die, these sort of things that have become entrenched into our mentality. This is doing a lot of damage. What's going on right now, it's very quick to sort of fall back into a team that's weak mentally. So my concern is not so much losing, because you don't support your team to win every week. It's like losing is part of football, but it's the way we're losing. It's the way that we've just collapsed in the last couple of weeks. And it's also the people that we're losing to. I mean, no one wants to lose against City. No one wants to lose against Leicester, these teams that are up there alongside you in the same area of the table. So yeah, no, it's been pretty tough. But just on the Leicester side of things, it just goes to show with that team that you can think that they're out of the game, but they didn't look like they were dominating the game at any stage until like the 60th or 7th minute, and then they pull 3 goals out of their ass and win the game convincingly. So that's a dangerous team to be facing in the second half of the season. They'll be a tough opponent for teams in the final straight, because if they can keep that up, you never write them off. 20 minutes to go and they can still pull out a result.
Well, they're in second place now and cleared second as well. Man United do have a game in hand though, but if Man United draw, I can't remember who they play.
They got West Brom, so they've got a whole pass this week. Yeah,
yeah, pretty much. Man United also got superior goal difference, so even if they only get a point away at West Brom, they'll still go above Leicester. So it does seem likely that Leicester will drop back down to third. But look, I guess a couple of years ago we were talking about Leicester and how they won the league and how it was a bit of a once off, and they had their year in the Champions League but then dropped out, and then last season they looked like they were going to qualify for the Champions League but just missed out, and everyone thought, oh well, there's an opportunity gone. But they've only gotten better this season, and I would say that they're a good chance to make the Champions League this year after just missing out last year on the final day. So good stuff for the Foxes. But, mate, unfortunately, we probably should keep moving, though. Next up, Brighton, Aston Villa. This one had all the hallmarks of being an attacking, high-scoring game, except neither team basically could find the quality to score. Plenty of chances, plenty of shots on goal, but it finished 0-0. And I don't really have anything else to say.
I think this is what Villa. This is what's pretty special about Villa this season, is that when they aren't on top in a game, they still find a way. I mean, a huge part of that's got to do with Martinez, but they just seem to find a way to dig out a draw at least, or a clean sheet. And I never picked this at the start of the season with Villa. I mean, where they are and how they're performing has just been quite incredible. And especially considering that you think about in the middle of all this, they had a COVID outbreak and they lost a couple of game weeks there where they had to recover from the disease within their own team, in the first team. So pretty impressive how they're going. You have to take your hat off to them. But with Brighton, I mean, Brighton's kind of the equivalent of the Phoenix in the Premier League. I mean, like, they're just like getting the ball into great areas, Brighton. But they can't seem to just get the final product. Trossard did his customary 2 or 3 shots on target. They are missing Solly March a little bit, which is a big loss for them. But like McAllister was busy. They were all busy. But no one had the killer final clinical finish that they desperately need. So where's that boy Welbs, as Colby likes to call him? Where's Welbeck? Bring back Glenn Murray. I mean, what do they need, Tommie?
Well, yeah, look, they probably can't go worse than Glenn Murray at the moment. I think he's just going to like Forest or something in the championship or something like that. I don't know, but yeah, look, it does appear as though like it's arguably, I would say that's a better result for Brighton than it is for Villa. If anything, it's probably 3 points drop for Villa. But Brighton, I mean, I've got to admit, I only saw the highlights for this one, and it looked as though Brighton really had a go in this one. So I think both teams will be disappointed to only walk away with a point. Next up, though, is Crystal Palace Burnley, which look, Crystal Palace Burnley. Roy Hodgson, Sean Dyche, 4-4-2, you know exactly what you're going to get, which is Benteke and Batshuayi versus Barnes and Rodriguez, 2 proper footballing teams, and pretty much no central midfield for either team. But, mate, I tell you what, I switched this game on and I was going to do a whole bunch of pod prep while I was watching it and sort of have it on in the background. But that is not the way this game panned out. And I tell you what, Burnley were very, very good. They pretty much blew Palace away in the first 10 minutes. A goal for Goodmanson and Jay Rodriguez. And I didn't know whether I was watching City or Burnley. They just, I mean, obviously Palace were poor at home, and I'll get to that in a second. But geez, Burnley were good. In fact, MTAG Burnley fan at Absent Tristan, I think it is, on Twitter, he asks, why are Burnley such a reliable Premier League team even after no signings this season?
Well, the thing about Burnley is that they always start slow, have poor results. Everybody questions whether they can go again. They get through to Christmas. Then they start pulling out a run of results that nobody expects. So you see the Liverpool result. They'll beat somebody that no one expected them to beat. So they beat Villa. And then all of a sudden they're okay again. And Pope starts getting clean sheets, back-to-back clean sheets. And all of a sudden Burnley finish, 11th or 10th or something, and they're safe. And it's just extraordinary that they manage to do this every year with the same team. So going back to the question, it is extraordinary because this is a team that hasn't really replenished itself. It hasn't really, there are players in there, especially the centre-backs, that have been there for the last 3 or 4 years, and they won't change, and they just keep going round and round and round. So they are the anti-system. It doesn't make sense that they're still there. They almost look like they're completely out of date with the way the rest of the teams are playing, but they're still getting results. And as you said, last night they played incredibly well. And I'm just surprised that that Palace, I mean, going over to Palace looks so bad without Zaha. And we've said that a lot of times over the years, but this is really concerning. They genuinely didn't look like they were going to get back in that game. They didn't look
You're
like,
right.
Yeah.
It didn't look like there was a way back into the game for them.
No. So yeah, I'm seeing in the group chat going off because David Ball's managed to get himself sent off for Wellington. So that's great. That's really good. Yeah, just what I said. Just going back to my my comments earlier in the pod about how a red card can kill a game. Well, nothing like a red card in the 27th minute to really ruin a game.
Yeah, it's going to be hard to see the Fire Chickens coming back from this one. If I guess if anything, seems like David Ball just got a little bit too fired up. Took the whole Fire Chickens thing to extremes.
It's a ball breaker. It's a ball breaker for me. That's for sure. Yeah, but sorry, going back to Palace. Yeah, you were saying
Palace. Yeah. So look, thank you for the segue onto Palace, because I think Palace are a bit of a crossroads, and it does look as though, look, I don't think I think pretty much now Fulham, West Brom, and Sheffield United. I think it's going to be really difficult for any of them to escape relegation. There's a 10-point gap between Fulham and Newcastle, who Newcastle are the first team outside the relegation zone. It's going to be the great escape of all great escapes this season. So and look, I think of the teams that are sort of thereabouts, just outside the relegation zone, you've got Newcastle, Burnley, Brighton, and Wolves. They're also thereabouts, and I think all of those teams, I think, will continue to pick up points semi-regularly, which will mean that I don't think any of those teams will really get sucked into the relegation fight. And I guess to the point about Palace, though, they're the next team above Wolves right now, but Palace they've got 12 first-team players who are coming off of contract at the end of the season, as well as Roy Hodgson. Now, I mean, Roy Hodgson, he's got to be the same age as Emperor Palpatine, and I just don't really see them going with Roy for another few years, because I think that, like, he's done his job there. They play some decent football, but they are obviously very reliant upon Zaha, and like the players that they've got who are coming off contract. Obviously, there are some squad players, but they've also got Sacco, Andros Townsend, Van Arnholt, and Gary Cahill, who are all coming off of contract. And I wouldn't be surprised if they maybe take a little bit more of an adventurous approach with who they take on board. Maybe they'll do something similar to what Brighton did in getting in Graham Potter. And we did see that Palace tried this a few years ago when they got in, Frank de Boer, and that was just a massive failure. But I can see them trying something different again, maybe a little bit more pragmatically, sort of somewhere in between Roy and Frank de Boer, because there is a huge range of people in between those two. But I guess it's also a big opportunity for a club like Palace as well.
What do you reckon, Eddie Howe to Palace?
Oh, that's not a bad shout. And Eddie Howe, I'm sure he's making himself very known at the moment. He was on the Premier League coverage last night. So
yeah, which every manager who wants to put themselves in the shot window does, as they go onto the coverage and chip in with a bit of analysis. No, I think that they seriously are at a crossroads, and I'd agree with you about that, because I think the style of play is dire. The players they've got in there is pretty dire. They're tired. The squad looks like a team that's a lot of people are saying that the team's already on the beach, which it's incredible to be saying that in February with still a lot of football to be played. And as you say, I mean, they're on 29 points. Fulham's on 15 at the edge of that relegation area. They look like they're easily safe from the bottom three, but to be honest, you can't keep getting donuts at this time of season, because then the pressure will start to accumulate. So I wonder if they're just going to see if Roy can get them through to safety, maybe the end of March, maybe to the end of the season, if they can bear with it, and then they might change managers at the end of the season. If not, they might have to step in and get someone else in there. But at the moment, that team, like Van Arnholt is a great example. He does not look like he wants to be there. He's out of contract at the end of the season. He's blocking when he's playing there. I think they've actually suffered from Nathan Ferguson not playing. He's had a knee injury, and he's meant to be. He came from West Brom, so he came with big raps. He came with big raps to be a bit of an up-and-coming talent. Mitchell on the other side has shown promise in a pretty poor team. So they do have some players there that look exciting for the future, and Eze has been really promising as well. But he can only do so much when he's got Ayew and Benteke around him and stuff. So they do need a massive clean out. So probably an anxious period to be a Palace fan, but probably also quite an exciting time, because it can't get worse than this. Put it that way.
Yeah. Well, it can, which is like what I actually think. You're right. It is a bit of a. It can go one of two ways, and next year, I guess, who they appoint and which players they bring in, I think it's going to go one of two ways. They're either going to make Europe next year, or they're going to get relegated. They're not going to finish mid-table. It's just not going to happen.
There's nothing to play for in there. And just going back to what we were saying before, Roy Hodgson, every single year, my hot take is he'll be fired before Christmas and Crystal Palace will get in a new manager. And the guy is just like a cockroach. He just continues to survive there. He never gets sacked. And I'm like, can finally my theory of Roy needing to go catch up with him and finally will he get sacked remains to be seen. But I'm waiting for the moment to happen.
All right, mate. Look, enough Palace chat for now, though. Let's get on to a few more previews. There's still 6 more games to be played this round. Southampton host Portugal B. 2 struggling teams. Southampton struggling for confidence and Wolves struggling for goals without Jimenez. What's your pick for this one, Jesse?
Oh, I mean, every time there's a Wolves game on paper at the moment, you think it's going to be a 0-0, just because they've tightened up the defence, but they don't look like they can score a goal. Southampton's a tougher one to pick because they are finally getting some players back. I think they've got Romeo back, they've got Vestergaard back, Ings, but they also go into
Walker
a busy
Peters too. I think he's back too. Yeah,
Walker Peters. So they're coming back into a bit of a busy period. I think they're going to have a few back-to-back game weeks soon. So it'll be interesting to see how they adjust. Minamino is now there, and that's interesting to see how that dynamic works because I feel like if he plays the way that he played before he came to Liverpool, he would be a great to see what he could do with Ings. Could be an awesome partnership we're about to see. Exciting to see if Southampton can bounce back. They've been pretty cautious since they got absolutely spanked 9-0. So I think this could be a low scorer, to be honest. But I am slightly tipping towards Southampton, and I think it might be a 1-0 to Southampton.
1-0 Southampton. Interesting. We mentioned it already before. West Brom are hosting Man United. Mate, do you think Sam Allardyce could get sacked if there's another big score at home in this one?
Listen, I'm always paranoid of when there is so much talk about one team destroying another team that the exact opposite is going to happen and it's going to be like a banana skin. I have absolutely no reservations about this game. I think West Brom is going to get absolutely destroyed because what we've seen from United is that when United do go up from 2 goals or 3 goals, like they did against Southampton, admittedly they had a man down, but that may as well be the same as West Brom. They absolutely put the foot to the throat. Fernandes, Rashford. If Rashford and Fernandes have scored goals, Cavani will want a goal. And if Cavani has got a goal, Greenwood will want a goal. It'll just get out of hand. So I can see this escalating real fast. And I've got Cavani. My tip is that Cavani is going to absolutely go to town on them and potentially could get a hat-trick this game. So I don't think there's going to be a big Sam miracle this week. I think it literally is as it reads on paper. I think United will absolutely destroy them because I think United have got that incentive to try and keep up with City and Leicester.
Arsenal host Leeds. Arsenal with 1 point in their last 3, whilst Leeds have got 3 wins in their past 4 games. What's your pick, mate?
Sorry, I've just seen Sal's comment about the Palace killing a cockroach. That's fantastic. Sorry. Can you ask the question again? I was slightly distracted there.
Arsenal Leeds. Who's going to win?
Well, I thought Arsenal. Apparently, Leeds haven't won in London for a long time. I can't remember what the actual stat was for this, but apparently they've got a real hoodoo with winning in London. So that was interesting to read. Leeds are coming in with good form.
Mate, that is a very good point. It has been approximately 4 days since Leeds last won in London, where they beat Palace 2-0. So.
So as you can see, that's obviously a really big stat. Leeds. That was in Leeds Home Stadium, mate. It wasn't in London.
Oh, I thought you meant against London.
No.
Right, I'll go back a little bit further. So they lost 3-0 against Spurs.
Chelsea. I think they lost to Chelsea as well.
They lost against Chelsea.
Yeah,
at Palace, they lost 4-1.
Someone threw the stat out there. I can't remember where I read it, but basically they really struggle in London, supposedly. I think it came from a Leeds fan, so they're obviously acutely aware of it. So
Mate,
that's interesting.
They've lost every game in London this season. Where were they? They did beat Fulham, but that was at home. And every other game they've lost so far.
They just hate it, hate getting down there. Give them a choppy paddock in Yorkshire any day. They prefer that. But yeah. So London hoodoo aside, I like Leeds in these games. I like them against teams like Arsenal, where you just think that if I was thinking it from a Liverpool perspective, or even a Chelsea going to Arsenal right now, I'd think a lot of huff and getting frustrated with Arsenal and not being able to get through them. And I just look at Leeds and I think that they're just that one team which, they could concede 3 goals and absolutely capitulate and maybe lose 4-1. But conversely, they could also win 4-1 against Arsenal if Arsenal shit the bed. So it makes it a very tough game to pick. I really don't know. I fancy Leeds in the next couple of weeks after this, so I'm not so sure they'll get the result this week. But I'm quite excited to watch that one. It's interesting to see how these two teams are going to go. I think the last one was actually a relatively low-scoring game from memory. Was it 0-0 the first time round?
I think I've still got it up. Who was it? Arsenal. Arsenal. It was 0-0. Yep, in November.
Yeah. So I mean, that one
someone got sent off for Arsenal. That was the game that Pepe got sent off.
The headbutt. That's right.
Yeah. Another example of red card ruining a game. All right, mate. So what was your pick again?
I'm going to say 3-2 to Leeds.
3-2 to Leeds.
It's not going to happen, but I just hope it happens.
Everton, Fulham. Everton, 1 win, 1 draw in the past 4 games. Fulham, 3 draws in the past 4 games. Is this one going to end up as a draw as well?
Everton should win this. But Calvert-Lewin being out.
Yeah, big loss for them.
Big loss. And
they do have Luca Digne and Richarlison are both playing. And when those two play, even if Calvert-Lewin isn't playing, I think they're still a pretty solid team. Richarlison
scored during the week in that wild 5-4 game, which we didn't even mention, of course. It probably could have been one of our moments of the week. He was looking really, really good in that game. So, yeah, I agree with you. But at the same time, what Everton lack is enough of those players across the park. So sometimes you've got 2 players that link up really, really well and you think, okay, great. But sometimes they just can't even get into positions for those 2 players to link because the midfield's not doing enough. Alan used to be at the start of the season that player that could get them up the pitch. So, I feel like Everton should win this, but if they do win, I don't think it's going to be a big win. And Fulham, every game they've got to go for it now. So that might play into Everton's hands. I'm thinking maybe a 1-0 or a 2-0 to Everton. Gylfi Sigurdsson to score again.
The Gylf. Wushu. My West Ham versus Damo Sheffield United. Can Sheffield United get the win here to help them get out of relegation?
Oh, how are you feeling? I'm going to ask the question back towards you, Tommie, because how are you feeling as a West Ham fan about this one? Because you're about to go into a tough run of fixtures. Apparently, Antonio's tired. Hopefully he has a couple of sleep-ins before, is it Tuesday or Wednesday? I've got him in my team, so I'm hoping he gets a goal. What are your thoughts on Antonio?
Mate, if my fantasy team's anything to go by, I swapped out Antonio this week for Watkins. So,
wow.
I'm actually thinking that so less important, I think, is Antonio right now, and Ogbonna went off injured in the FA. I think it was in the FA Cup. Diop also went off injured after I think about an hour as well. And I think Balbuena's got a knock too from training. So
a calf issue.
Yeah, West Ham have been really fortunate this season with injuries. Normally we have a terrible run with injuries, but it does seem as though sort of some of our chickens are coming home to roost now all at once. So I'm actually pretty nervous about this one. Maybe Moyes can pull something out of the hat and suddenly we become like a high-scoring team. But, I guess I do fear that Bowen in particular has looked tired probably for the last 2 or 3 weeks.
Who slots in next to Dawson? Who actually goes in there?
Good question. I think
left?
it's probably more like. Well, I think it's likely to be. I think it just comes down to who's most fit out of Diop or Balbuena. I think Ogbona's going to be out for, I think, maybe a month. I think it was a hamstring for him, and
not good.
But yeah, I think it just comes down to whoever's fittest out of Diop and Balbuena, because I don't think neither are particularly in great sort of fitness at the moment. So I think it just comes down to that. I think the squad's lack of depth is starting to, I guess, show, and that's why I think Sheffield United, who are actually in pretty decent form, 2 wins, 2 losses in their last form, in last 4, I think they could take all 3 points away from this one.
Wow.
Finally, though, George's Chelsea will play against friend of the pod, Stomo's Newcastle. Chelsea have won 3-3, while Newcastle are in a bit of a flat run of form at the moment. Do you see any other result other than Chelsea with 3 points here?
Yeah, I think that Chelsea, I just don't think Newcastle's going to have enough. I mean, Wilson getting 6 to 8 weeks is from what I've heard, a pretty optimistic time frame apparently for Wilson's injury. I think that it could be even longer. So that's devastating for them. Like the go-to guy for Newcastle and all things that have gone well for them this season. So I can't see anything other than a Chelsea result. The question is it going to be a low scorer and they just do what they need to do to get a 1-0 or a 2-0? I mean, Tuchel seems to be content with a low scoring win at the moment. He's just trying to build a foundation. So I'm just wondering what he does, what approach he has. It'll be very interesting to see if this is the kind of game that plays Werner and a couple of those other players into form for Chelsea. They need a game like this to get up and running.
Possibly. Maybe we'll finally see Tuchel play Havertz as a false 9 up top, giving Werner plenty of space to run into. There you go. Bit of a tactical prediction there from yours truly.
Hot tip.
But yeah, mate. Alrighty, look, I think we both agree that Chelsea are going to get the 3 points there. It's pretty unlikely seeing Newcastle get up there, but yeah, that's all from us this week on the pod. Thanks for tuning in. We'll be back again next week with more Premier League, more A-League, and who knows what else from around the world water football over the next week. But until then, thanks for joining in. Thanks for having Jesse and I in your lounge rooms or your commute to work. Cheers.